Hey, my name's Tip Thompson, and welcome to what's going to be a very personal video essay review slash rambling thoughts type thing about the Final Fantasy VII remake and just what it means to me. I finished the remake just a few days ago, and I've been mulling over my thoughts and feelings since then. It's a game that's super important to me, and to kind of explain why, we have to go back into my past a little bit and my experiences with the original game. And yes, I am being a giant nerd and doing this in my Final Fantasy VII t-shirt. Final Fantasy VII was originally released in the UK on the 31st of January 1997, but I didn't play it myself until around the year 2000, so when I was about 13. It was a game I'd kind of heard of but never really thought of exploring myself. And I didn't actually buy the game. It was lent to me by a friend of my mum's partner. The partner of my mum's friend. It's a mouthful either way. And one day I just decided to give it a go. I remember being instantly kind of drawn to the visuals because it reminded me of the music video for In the End by Linkin Park. I was a big Linkin Park fan back in the day. I was really, really bad at the game. I couldn't get past the first boss. I tried and I tried and I tried and I just couldn't get past him. Couldn't work out what I was doing wrong. And in the end I just kind of gave up for a bit. Then the weirdest thing happened. I was out one day with my granddad and I was just sat in the front seat of his car. And I got bored and I started looking through the glove box. Don't know why, I think I might have been looking for those weird tins of sweets that old people seem to keep. But what I found in the glove box was a complete walkthrough for Final Fantasy VII. I asked my granddad why he had this book and he had absolutely no idea. I don't think he could even tell you what a video game was. So by some weird turn of fate, I'd stumbled across the very thing I needed to help me get past this boss. Turns out it was pretty simple. I'd just been ignoring all the things the game told me to do, but we'll just ignore my lack of video skills back then and now. And once I got past that first boss, the game just opened up into this huge world of amazing characters and story arcs and emotional beats, and I completely fell in love with it. It's important to note that this was an incredibly strange time in my life. I'd actually left school when I was 12 years old. Which isn't really something I put out there publicly. I only really discussed this with my nearest and dearest. I just had a really hard time adjusting to secondary school life. I started the year quite late, about halfway through the year 7, and after some fairly horrendous experiences with bullies and that sort of thing, it made it really hard for me to kind of interact socially with the other kids. Just going to point out, I wasn't one of those kids that was kicked out of school for like setting fire to a nursing home or something like that. School was a very traumatic experience for me, and ultimately the decision was made with my mum and the teachers at the time that it would be best for me at that stage to leave school, which ultimately meant that I was in this position where I had no friends, I had no structure, and I was just this incredibly lonely and very sad kid. And what I found with Final Fantasy VII was not only this brilliant video game, but some solace and respite from everything I was feeling, and just a chance to get lost in this world with all these amazing characters that I loved and adored, even Yuffie. So when people ask me what my favourite video game of all time is, the answer is always Final Fantasy VII, because not only is it one of the best video games ever made, but it was there for me at a time when I desperately needed something. Now, when the remake was announced, you better believe I was hyped. The announcement came at E3 in 2015, and to me at that time I was like, oh, that means it'll be out next month. It wasn't. It took a little while longer, and that just meant the hype grew and grew and grew. Finally, after what felt like an equal amount of time to using the Knights of the Round summon in the original game, we had a release date, the 10th of April 2020. And you better believe your cute butt, I pre-ordered that sucker straight away. And come midnight on release day, there I was, controller in the hand, playing the second it opened up on my PlayStation. Played through the night. I got about 1 hour's sleep, and that was only because I had a work shift at 5 AM. Yeah, I was pretty tired that day. And now that I finished Final Fantasy VII, I'm in this really unique position where I can say it completely surpassed my expectations. It's a game that is designed for not only old fans like myself who nerd out on all the lore and knowledge, but for people that are completely new to the franchise as well. Getting to see Midgar in all its updated glory, like, it just sent shivers down my spine, had goosebumps running up and down my arm, and Square Enix have absolutely nailed it, from everything from the level design to the way the characters look, the way they speak. They've got everything right. The combat is unique. Each boss requires a different approach and way of thinking to figure out a way to beat it, and the way they flesh out the early levels of the original game, it doesn't feel forced. It feels really considered, and it adds so much depth, especially to characters like Biggs, Wedge and Jesse. Like, I know this is just me sat here just like nerding out on how much I love it, but I really don't think I could find a single flaw with it. Let's try anyway. Okay, well, there's no photo mode. The game is absolutely gorgeous, and I would have loved to have had about 4,000 albums worth now full of screenshots, but I'm pretty sure if you follow me on social media, you're probably going to be quite grateful that that isn't a thing. The camera's a little too close for my liking. Like, again, the world is gorgeous and I wanted to see more of it, and if the camera wasn't so fixed to the character, maybe you could have seen a bit more of all the background and the world around you. Oh, and maybe, just maybe, it would have been nice to have the summons be a bit more common, especially for boss battles, but, you know, this is just me nitpicking on something that really is pretty flawless. And I don't know if you can tell already, but I absolutely loved it. Every single minute of that 42 hours it took me to beat the game, I was just in awe. And the direction they've gone in with the story and the theories surrounding it, I can't really speak about it because then we're kind of entering into spoiler territory, but if they're going in the direction I think they're going, then it's absolutely brilliant. It completely blew my mind, just like it did 20 years ago. And I sat through the end credits with tears in my eyes, just astounded that I could have these two seminal experiences with the same characters 20 years apart. And I just want part 2 now. Part 2 now, please, I need it. So from 13-year-old me to 33-year-old me, just thank you, Square Enix. You gave a young kid a reason when he felt like he didn't have one, and an older man the chance to explore this all again with everything I've learned in my life. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Part 2, please.